In just a few minutes, an entire group of armored vehicles can turn into burning wreckage. Scenes like this have played out again and again across the front. Open source analysts have tracked thousands of Russian vehicle losses since the war began, and a large portion of those losses didn't come from jets or long-range missiles. They came from artillery guided by drones, and from small FPV drones that cost almost nothing compared to the vehicles they destroy. That's the scale of the damage, but the real shock is how fast it happens. A mechanized column moves forward, a tank leads, APCs follow close behind, carrying infantry. Some vehicles are fitted with anti-drone cages, others use jamming systems. The crews believe they are ready for a battlefield filled with drones. But preparation doesn't mean survival. Long before the column gets close to the front line, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones are already watching from above. As the convoy moves along a narrow path mixed with open terrain, every movement becomes a clear coordinate on a screen. Then something goes wrong. One vehicle hits a mine or stops at the wrong angle. That's all it takes. The entire movement starts to break down. Artillery doesn't need to destroy everything. It just needs to slow the column and force soldiers out of their vehicles. And at that exact moment, FPV drones enter the fight. What looked like a routine advance suddenly turns into a race between reaction and destruction. The attack begins like a standard mechanized push, but every move is already being tracked. A Russian assault group forms with a tank in front, APCs behind it, and support vehicles carrying supplies further back. The formation is built for speed and pressure. The lead tank is meant to take the first hits and clear obstacles. APCs bring infantry close enough to dismount and take ground. Logistics vehicles keep the push going after first contact. The objective is simple: move forward, reach the Ukrainian line, unload troops, and either push deeper if resistance is too high, or pull back if losses become too high. Timing is everything. If the column keeps moving, it can pressure defenders. If it slows too early, the entire plan becomes fragile. But from the Ukrainian side, the fight doesn't begin with gunfire. It begins with observation. Reconnaissance drones rise high above the battlefield long before the convoy arrives. Their job isn't to strike first, it's to study. They analyze spacing between vehicles, identify key targets, and understand the structure of the formation. A tank in front suggests one approach. A dense cluster of APCs suggests another. As the convoy moves, operators track every detail in real time. Speed changes, slight turns, spacing shifts. These details matter. A stretched formation is harder to protect. If the lead vehicle moves too far ahead, it becomes isolated. If the rear falls behind, it risks being cut off. The crews on the ground think they're advancing toward a target. But from above, their movement is being turned into data. Each vehicle becomes a moving point on a screen. The route they've chosen starts to look less like an attack and more like a corridor being measured. Inside the vehicles, soldiers focus on what they can see: terrain, tree lines, possible mines. They trust their armor and onboard systems. What they can't see is how exposed their formation looks from above. From that angle, the spacing, the order, the rhythm, it all forms a pattern. And that pattern can be studied before the first shot is fired. At this stage, everything feels normal. Engines are running, radios are calm, the column is still moving as planned. But the balance is already shifting. One side is moving in steel and fuel. The other side is building a complete picture. And one quiet question begins to form. When the moment comes, which vehicle should be hit first to break the entire formation? The advance looks controlled, but risk is already building. The column spreads out as it moves. Crews try to avoid bunching up because tight formations attract heavy fire. By stretching the line, they hope to reduce the chance of multiple vehicles being hit at once. On paper, that makes sense. But in reality, the longer the column becomes, the harder it is to protect every part of it. The lead tank keeps steady speed. APCs follow at intervals. Support vehicles trail behind. What you get is a long, thin chain of armor moving across mixed terrain. Each gap between vehicles is both protection and a weakness. If something happens at the front, the rest must react instantly. Any hesitation can break the rhythm. Some vehicles have metal cages designed to stop FPV drones. Others use electronic warfare systems to disrupt signals. But not every vehicle has the same level of protection. That means the entire column is only as strong as its weakest section. As the convoy moves into open ground, visibility from above increases. Fields and low terrain offer little cover. From the air, armored vehicles stand out clearly. Thermal sensors can detect engine heat, especially when speed drops. And that's when risk increases. A moving target is hard to track, a slowing one much easier. If one vehicle slows or changes direction suddenly, the rest must react. And in that moment, spacing can collapse. Inside the convoy, attention stays forward. Commanders listen to radio traffic and watch for threats ahead. But what they don't see is how stretched their protection has become. Air defense can't cover everything. Jamming systems can't fully protect a column spread across hundreds of meters. Still, nothing has exploded yet. Engines keep moving, the plan looks intact. But the geometry of the movement is quietly shifting the balance. The longer the column becomes, the more vulnerable it becomes to a single break. And that leads to one critical question. Where is the true breaking point? The turning moment comes fast. One vehicle stops in the wrong place, and everything begins to collapse. As the column moves through a dangerous zone, the lead elements reach ground that looks clear. Then, suddenly, a blast. A mine detonates beneath a vehicle, or an unseen obstacle forces it to stop. The result is immediate. The vehicle blocks the path. That one pause creates a bottleneck. Vehicles behind it must stop, turn, or try to move around, but space is limited. Within seconds, spacing disappears. The formation compresses. The clean structure is gone. Above, the recon drone shifts focus. Instead of tracking the whole column, it locks on to the stopped vehicle. Coordinates are sent instantly to artillery units. What was once a moving column is now a fixed target. Artillery doesn't need perfect hits. Rounds land close enough to force reactions. Shockwaves hit. Dust rises. Shrapnel strikes armor. Even near misses create damage and confusion. Some vehicles try to reverse, others push forward. The column traps itself in its own length. Radio calls overlap. Orders change quickly. The mission shifts from advancing to surviving. Inside the APCs, soldiers feel it immediately. When vehicles stop and incoming fire increases, staying inside becomes dangerous. Orders are given to dismount. Hatches open. Soldiers jump out and run for any cover they can find. This is the most exposed moment. Without armor, they rely only on terrain and speed. From above, drones capture everything. Vehicles idling, soldiers moving in open ground. What was once an organized column is now a scattered cluster. Artillery continues, not just to destroy, but to control movement. The front is blocked. The rear is under pressure. The column is frozen in place. The attack has lost its rhythm. And now the battlefield breaks into isolated pockets of survival. Then comes the next phase. FPV drones enter and turn disruption into destruction. After artillery slows everything down, small attack drones move in low and fast. Their targets are no longer moving vehicles, but stalled ones, damaged ones, and exposed crews. A disabled APC near the bottleneck becomes the first target. The drone approaches from an angle, avoiding direct fire. It strikes the top. Smoke rises. Even if the vehicle survived artillery, it won't survive this. Another drone targets a vehicle trying to retreat. The operator tracks it carefully, adjusting in real time. The goal isn't random damage. The goal is to remove movement. Once a vehicle stops, it blocks others. The corridor tightens. Operators manage time carefully. FPVs have limited flight time. They don't waste strikes on already destroyed targets. They look for active threats. The pattern becomes clear. Hit the front, stop progress. Hit the middle, split the column. Create confusion everywhere. Drivers hesitate. Gunners scan the sky. Infantry try to reposition. Footage has shown multiple vehicles destroyed in rapid sequence. One hit creates smoke. Another hits a different target. A third ensures nothing recovers. The pressure doesn't stop. On the ground, the psychological effect builds fast. Soldiers outside vehicles now face threats from above. Crews inside must decide: stay closed and blind, or open up and risk exposure. Neither option feels safe. The battlefield changes. This is no longer a coordinated push. It's a series of small, intense fights around individual vehicles. Every strike reduces options. Every second increases pressure. The final stage is where everything breaks. Some tanks have metal cages meant to stop drones. The first drone hits, and the cage absorbs the blast. For a moment, it works, but then another drone comes in. Now the structure is already damaged. Gaps have opened. The second hit doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to reach the weak spot. It does. Flames burst out. That sense of protection disappears instantly. Meanwhile, support vehicles become major risks. A supply truck carrying ammunition is hit. The explosion is massive, far beyond the drone's size. Secondary blasts follow. Fire spreads. Debris flies across the area. Now the battlefield becomes even more dangerous. Crews can't stay in place. Heat, fire, and explosions force movement. What was already a kill zone becomes a collapsing trap. At this point, the mission is over. The only question left is survival. Do you send more forces in to help, or do you pull back and accept the losses? Either choice carries risk. The column is no longer a unit. It's a scattered group trying to escape. Looking at the full sequence, the key detail isn't one explosion. It's the chain reaction. One stalled vehicle creates a choke point. Drones identify it. Artillery locks it down. FPVs finish the job. The most dangerous moment isn't the advance. It's the moment the column is forced to stop. That's when everything changes. As more drones fill the sky, the future of mechanized warfare is being tested in real time. Will tactics adapt? Will formations become smaller? Or will new systems emerge to break this cycle? The next battles will answer that. What do you think happens next?